If you were given $5 million to build a church, what would you build? Would you add stained glass windows or steeples to your sanctuary? Would you add statues of biblical figures or painting against its walls? Would you add kitchens or gyms for your extra spaces? What type of materials would you use? Would you layer everything in gold and other rich materials? There has been a long and ongoing debate between Christians about which two main factors in church construction better support the church's mission and influence on the world: beauty or function. Many Christians would agree that the mission of the church building itself is to serve as a physical space available for worship and ministry, providing a strong and close community and assisting in outreach events and activities. However, there is some debate about how to design a church building that will best impact the world. History shows the church building going through a series of transformation in its design and purpose, starting with the early Christians. To the early Christians, the word church did not refer to a building, but more towards the act of gathering together to worship. The early Christians were forced into secrecy to avoid the Romans' persecution of them, making them worship in house churches, which were simple, subtle, and more importantly, unrecognizable. Once the Edict of Milan legalized Christianity in the Roman Empire, Christians discovered the freedom they had to make their beliefs more visible, which included church design. Throughout the centuries now, churches have been built as grand basilicas to show presence, simple monasteries to show devotion, and ornate cathedrals to show power, all for the glory of God. Now, in the present age, there are more modern styles added in church design, like the megachurches or the more rural and urban churches, but it doesn't make it any less simple or grand in its own way. These examples show different characteristics that different people value in a church. However, there is conflict about which characteristics in a church building are most supportive and useful for the church's mission. There are different foundational designs for a church building that many Christians have made throughout history and the world that favors beauty over function, or function over beauty, or finding equal value in both. But which features are most supportive of the church building's mission? Both beauty and function should be valued in a church building so that they support the Christian's mission. Beauty in a church building serves as a physical representation of God's glory and our dedication to Him, while functionality considers optimizing spaces for ministry and serving an intergenerational church and visitors of the church. If you look at the Suvela Church in Espoo, Finland, its design is an excellent example of a building that well balances the use of beauty and function. Its aesthetics sound simple but look very warm and meaningful. Anisi Lasala, founder of the Office for Peripheral Architecture, looked into its design and mentions that the exterior of the building is entirely covered in copper to emphasize the unity of the church. Though the church is still new, having been built in 2016, people hope to see signs of time and long-lived age in the natural oxidation of the metal. He also mentions that the local spruce is the material used in the interiors, saying that the presence of wood in the tall chapel hall where the walls are covered with wooden scantlings create a warm and peaceful atmosphere. The Suvela Church wants to become a representation of the dedication and devotion its members have towards the church. The seemingly simple but overall warm and meaningful beauty helps send a physical message to the world of the glory of God, honoring His being by becoming a representation of who He is and what He wants to do through the church. In the area that the Suvela Church is in, it is one of the most multicultural districts. Lasala states that the core principle in the project was to give attention to the needs of the culturally diverse community. So, in its design, it was made to create a building that offers opportunities for a variety of activities and provides an adaptable and flexible space for the residents who come in. The building serves many functions, providing for many different kinds of organizations and activities, along with being a meeting place that serves members of the communities and others that come in. While the church naturally serves as a place for mass, baptisms, weddings, and funerals, there are different facilities that have a range of different uses, from kindergarten and childcare to spaces for youth, as well as spaces for the local community clubs. The Suvela Church is a model that directly supports the church mission by becoming a physical space available for worship and ministry, providing a strong and close community for the multicultural and intergenerational, and assisting in outreach events and activities for the local community. So in building a church that best supports the Christian mission, you will want to build a space suitable for worship, like a sanctuary or a chapel. You would also want to build spaces that help members who want to grow further in their faith outside of church services. Rooms for childcare should be provided for parents who want their children to be able to understand the Bible, as well as youth rooms suitable for teenagers to feel comfortable in, and other individual spaces for adult meetings and small groups. Gyms and kitchens should be built in the church to better and more effectively help with the outreach events and activities. For the design of the church building, you will want to make it look well balanced in aesthetics that calls for people not only to respect the place, but feel welcomed in. But it should not be overly ornamented so that it would distract members and visitors from the meaning behind it. While function has a more direct purpose that supports the church mission, beauty has a more indirect purpose for the church that is just as important. Overall, beauty and function creates a balance of artistic inspiration and a stable foundation of faith that better than the two alone can achieve. However, there are some Christians who favor one characteristic over the other in a church building. Some people like to emphasize the beauty of the church as the main and essential qualities, while others prioritize functionality of a building as the most necessary part for a church building. When it comes to beauty as the highest preference over function, the Notre Dame Cathedral of Paris is an excellent example of a very extravagant and ornate church. It is one of the most famous churches in the world, attracting millions with its architectural significance. Its most recognizable features include its flying buttresses and towering walls, giving it a majestic and powerful look to the building. There's also the stained glass windows, particularly the cathedral's rose windows, which are not only stunningly beautiful, but also deeply symbolic, representing the divine light of God. The facade of the Notre Dame is adorned with intricate carvings and statues, which were originally made as visible stories for the illiterate, depicting scenes and characters from the Bible and various saints. The structure of the building itself becomes a physical representation of the greatness and power of God. While beautiful churches like the Notre Dame have attracted more visitors, giving them the chance to share the gospel, as well as being a powerful representation of a durable church through the centuries, it is harder to see how tourist attraction can be beneficial to Christian growth. Giovanni del Orto mentions that popular churches have more visitors who are tourists who come just to admire the architectural beauty of the building and not to pursue any spiritual development from it, creating a divide between the members of the community and visitors who want to grow in their faith and the tourists who come only to admire the aesthetic appearance of the church. A church focused on functionality is usually more simple with a straightforward structure, mainly designed to be a space that works for worship and ministry. Christ Memorial Lutheran Church is a good example of a church building that prioritizes functionality over beauty. Christ Memorial relocated from its sanctuary into a larger building, originally a Target store, repurposed to become a worship facility. It holds a sanctuary, a gymnasium, a youth center, and a fitness center. It's a building with a strong desire to invite and connect. However, the main flaw with the building is that it is not noticeable. The exterior of the building is seen as plain and simple in its design, with the cross and the entrance as the most defined part of the building outside. Inside, the sanctuary is given a more aesthetic appearance compared to the rest of the building, but overall, it isn't easily recognizable because there's a loss of beauty in it. Both beauty and function should be valued in a church building so that they support the Christian's mission. Beauty in a church building serves as a physical representation of God's glory and our dedication to Him, while functionality considers optimizing spaces for ministry and serving an intergenerational church and visitors of the church. This is something that the whole community of the church, like the pastors, elders, and members, should be aware of, because the community of the church makes the decisions and organizes votes on how a church should be built. And it is most important how to put such factors in a church facility and how beneficial and effective the designs will be to the church mission. Thank you.